All right, hello everybody. Thanks for joining us today for our virtual event live from the studio with Lebohang Mabusela and Wazile Mgibe as part of the Worldings International Residency Exchange Program. So I would like to begin by acknowledging that Griffin Art Projects is situated on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Tsleil-Waututh, Squamish, Musqueam, and Stolo nations. We are honored and grateful to undertake our work here. I'd also like to mention that if you would like to have live captions displayed for today's presentations, you can enable this by selecting the CC Live Transcription button at the bottom of your screen. And while it isn't perfectly accurate and struggles to decipher names and proper nouns in particular, we hope that it will prove to be helpful in capturing most of what we're saying. And lastly, if you are experiencing any technical difficulties with the Zoom interface or would like to share the event, it will be posted later on both Facebook and in our archive. And if you're experiencing difficulties throughout today, you can just raise the little virtual hand at the bottom of your screen, and I'll try and help you out as we go along. So we'll be kicking things off today with the warm welcome song from fellow Worldings residency artist and cohort member, Willacton. So we'd like to thank Willacton for his continued generosity throughout these live events in welcoming our audience from near and far. So with that, Willacton, I will turn things over to you.
Well, see, hands are up. Big welcome to you all here to our virtual gathering. And I brought out a little bit of a abalone shell here. Normally we light it up and send out a prayer for all things and everyone. And everybody have a wonderful evening and a wonderful day today. And I'm going to share our welcome song in Skatlacha. One of our elders who is now no longer with us, and he's also in the ancestral world right now. And he would always allow us to use a song to share, to welcome people. So back in the day, we'd have these big welcome figures sitting at the waterfront with their hands up like this. So when people were going by on their canoes, they have a big welcome. They'd come in and have a visit. So this is Skatlacha's song. Hop hop che, hop hop che, we ya cha ya, hop hop che, we ya cha ya, oh, hey hey hey, we ya cha ya, hop hop che, we ya cha ya, hop hop che, we ya cha ya, oh, hey hey hey, we ya cha ya, hop hop che, we ya cha ya, hop hop che, we ya cha ya, oh, hey hey hey, we ya cha ya. Osiam, Osiam. Big welcome to you all. And I just want to sort of like clear the air so we have no negative energy in our space energy from here to there. Normally we do the song to cleanse the floor, make sure there's no negative energy coming our way. Oh, 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 hey. Oh, oh, hey. Oh, hey. Oh, Good protection on all of us. Osia, enjoy. Nathaniel, Osia.
Thank you so much for that warm welcome and beautiful song, Walakton. We really appreciate that. And before jumping into the presentations today, I would like to remind our audience members that both Lebo and Wazile will be available to answer your questions towards the end of today's event. So if you have any questions throughout today's presentations, you can feel free to type them into the Q&A section, which is separate from the chat. It's also found along the toolbar at the bottom of your screen, however. So if you want to post them there, we'll get to them later on in the Q&A portion. And if you would like to ask your questions aloud, we can enable your audio. So just indicate that as well along with your questions, and we'll get to them a little later on today. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our first presenter of the day. Lebohang Mogul Mabusela is a multidisciplinary artist and self-proclaimed monotype babe and zine queen based in Johannesburg. In 2019, she graduated with a BA in Fine Arts from the Wits School of the Arts, where she was also awarded the Standard Bank Fine Arts Prize. Mabusela has participated in a number of group exhibitions at the Wits Art Museum, the Project Space Turbine Art Fair and Latitude Art Fair, Design Indaba in Cape Town as part of the Top 50 Emerging Creatives class of 2020, and more recently, she was a recipient of the Young Women's Studio Bursary. At the end of her studio stay, she participated in Monotypes, a monotype babe experience, a group show she produced and curated at the Bag Factory. Mabusela prides herself in being the founder of Makoti Technologies, a bridal gift shop offering a dynamic range of guns, tools, and technologies that enhance women's desire and roast patriarchy, keeping them safe while maintaining their attitudes. So Lebo has prepared a short video for us to view today, which begins by situating us outside of the Bag Factory in Johannesburg before taking us inside the studio and sharing some of her work. The video is about half an hour long, and just a reminder that Lebo is with us today. So please feel free to type any questions you may have for in the Q&A box, and we'll get to them a little later. So I'll just share my screen here and we'll get into the video. Just going to make sure that everyone can hear. There we are.
Good morning or good evening, wherever you're watching from. This is the Bag Factory. It's on Matlatini Street, and this is the only building with trees outside on the street. So this is how you know you're at the Bag Factory, and you can see the signage and the yellow benches over here where we sometimes sit in the sun. And we enter the building. We are greeted by an exhibition happening in the gallery. In passing, it's Cherise and Hamali, the winners of the Young Women's Studio Bursary from last year, from 2020. Okay, the exhibition features a few projections, but they're currently not on at the moment. And on my way to the studio. Okay, so this is my studio. It's painted pink because I love the color pink. And yeah, some of my older artworks here hanging in the space. And here you can see some of my collaborative works that I did with other artists. I am a printmaker, and I'm running a curatorial scheme called the Monotype Babe Curatorial. And I print on this very small press. I'm sure many of you have seen big presses. I can't afford to have a big press, so it's out of necessity that I started using a small press. And I think it's been going really well so far. I'm challenging artists, to print smaller and to use the medium they've never used before, like monotypes. And I also print some of my work here, some monotypes. I've been working on a series called Johannesburg Words, which is about catcalling in Johannesburg and just men talking to us in the male gaze. It's in vernacular because, I live in Joburg and a lot of people speak Zulu. So here's one of the diptychs here where these two guys are asking her if she, like, how far is her Uber, and she's responding, it says 2 minutes. You can see a guy just calling this girl out, and this guy asking this woman if she wants her to accompany him wherever she's going, and another guy asking if you requested an Uber, and these two guys asking, who are you choosing between us? Those are the things we hear. Or like, my African princess, this guy saying I love you. And here's like more work. So if you look at this work here, it's a bit more illustrative, and there's a call and response, or a call and lack of response. And I decided to turn the work into more of a portrait series than something illustrative, where to sort of like change the narrative of the male gaze, instead of showing, okay, this is what's happening to women, okay, this is what men are doing to women outside in the public space, in the streets, in town. So I focus on doing portraits of men doing the catcalling. And here's this one with a theme of using just blue on a pink background. But here I've decided to include the words, the text outside at the bottom as a title, not within the frame of the work. He's like, they're calling someone Sisi, and then we are scenting, like, are you going to center? And another guy, my freaking princess, and this guy leaning on a car asking you kape again. And okay, these ones is like a bunch of men asking Oketabani. And the work is titled Men at Work. One of the guys who are doing maintenances and on the streets, like digging holes for pipes, are always like notorious for catcalling people while working. These two are packaged because I have yet to send them to the people that bought them. There's another one inside underneath this one that's like hidden, because I packaged both of them in one folder. Oh geez. Okay, let me show you the other ones. Also have these two. Aukulumi means like, do you not speak? And you have another one says Utlalapi. Okay. So that is as far as it goes in terms of my printmaking, working on that press there. I actually have a year with this press. Last year during lockdown, I did a crowdfunding campaign asking for 8,000 rand so I can buy this press and I can start a printmaking studio. Well, it's more of a printmaking curatorial scheme that I established. And I've printed so far with like more than 20 artists. here at the Back Factory and locally in Johannesburg. This is one of the people I've collaborated with called Ofenza Sishabela. And yeah, I'll insert videos of me working with some of the artists right after this clip. So in terms of the layout of the studio, yeah, on the door I have this mat, this crochet mat that's crocheted from plastic. It's actually a conceptual artwork. People are always wondering whether they should step on it. And then as you go in, there's the bin there, and this tub here is for wetting paper, for blotting the paper when I'm printing. And I have these what do you call them? Wooden pallets for storing some other things underneath and laying artworks out. And I have this these pieces of melamine wood and bricks to put prints flat on the paper. And here I have like my broom hanging there. As you can see, I painted the handles pink. Okay, and then yeah, it's the Monotype Babe curatorial broom. I hope so that anyone knows where it belongs and they don't get mixed with other people's cleaning supplies. And the mop as well. Oh, Jehovah. Woo. There you go. Stick it in. Yeah, and the bucket for cleaning with the dustpan and everything. And this table here is where the printing happens, where I cut my paper and clean, print and package them. Yeah, and some containers with like stuff that's needed. Some erasers and small pencils so I can be able to easily locate them. And the press sits here. Then underneath I have this luggage bag. If I need to take my press home or anywhere, I just put it in the luggage bag and it can go anywhere. One day I dream of printing with Judy Chicago and maybe like taking the press and traveling with it, you know, going wherever she goes. And okay, there's some magazines in that box along with like a bubble wrap, a blanket, and 2 chairs. And this table, hey, hey, where's? Come here. I'm doing my video. This is Wazila. Hey. Yeah, you'll see him. Yeah, right here in this video. Yeah, so this is everything food, everything that I eat. As you can see, some business documents, and tea as well, perfume. You know, some like little sentimental things. This is my favorite little ornament. It's my studio pet called Mr. Business. And yeah, my notebook. This is where I sit to make notes and everything. And other people sit with me here when they come in to print and draw on their plates. You'll see in the video where they sit. And this is where my drawings go for the catalogs and the user manuals. So I have an obsession with doilies in printmaking and looking at Black womanhood within the domestic space, the home. And these are some bigger prints that I've done with another printmaker who has a bigger press and everything. I got an invite from him and he said like, yeah, I've seen your work. I have an ideas of what it could look like, and I came through to print with him. So these are some like representations of black cloths mixed in a little bit with doilies and creating this like bodied feminine experience. Along here with the period party. This series is aimed at undermining period shaming by basically making work that celebrates the audacity of what our bodies can do as women. there's this sort of feeling that people get when they are on their period to hide this feeling of shame, especially when you are a young girl and you get your period for the first time. There's this feeling of, it's not a nice feeling, you know, feeling of shame. I want to undermine that. I want us to live in a world where being on your period is not something that's regarded as disgusting or inappropriate. And women can also be honest and open about the perils and the illnesses of on your body, of like being on your period. So while we are on like serving the crimson wave, being on your period, having your monthly visitor and flow theme. So these are the small works that I did, which are more figurative with around period shaming. And you can see it's the president and the first lady. I call this series Treat Her Like a Lady. I think one of the spaces in which period shaming is perpetuated and allowed to happen is within heterosexual relationships. And this is one of the targeting, or like a soft calling out and roasting of heteronormativity and how those relationships can perpetuate the shaming of bodies. I haven't titled this or signed it because I want to show it at the art fair, the coming art fair. So the work is recently made and still being resolved. So I want to have these silhouettes of couples holding hands, looking like they are being romantic. And this is some texture I created, looking like they're being romantic, you know, like the man is so comfortable in the woman's body and what happens around it. In 2017, I established a fake bridal shop called Makoti, a bridal gift shop. And so the shop sells guns, tools, and technologies. I think the work is straightforward, honestly, in terms of knowing what, like, the patriarchy and its perils, and looking from a Black feminist lens. The work that I do from Makoti Technologies of making guns and little gizmos and technologies, little gadgets, fictional gadgets. It's almost like Black science fiction. These Black science fictional objects that are meant to dismantle the patriarchy, protect women, enhance their attitudes, do like all sorts of powerful things, meaningful things, either for women or to men. The guns from my shop are all made from paper. Making the works from paper was to undermine the idea of the strong Black woman, to really balance the fragility of being being vulnerable, but also the gun being there to show the resilience and the history of, you know, Black women's strength and resilience, which, like, for now, like nowadays, that resilience has been used to box women, Black women, as strong or angry or aggressive. And by using paper, I wanted to undermine that idea. There's a saying in my language, in Setswana, called Musadi utshwara thipa ka bogaleng. And this saying basically translates to a woman holds the knife by the sharp side. it is such an ironic saying, imagining a woman holding a knife on the blade by the sharp side, and that being used as something to show or be proud of women's valor. That proverb being used as a point of celebrating women's valor, for me, it was ironic because that means, black women are superhuman. And being superhuman is honestly a way of being subhuman. And being subhuman is non-human. So it basically implies that black women are so strong. Oh my God. They don't need nurturing. They can do all the fighting for us. Seriously. So I wanted to make work that questions that ideal of the strong black woman trope and, aggressiveness and the angry black woman trope to being one of softness and care, but also encouraging us to arm ourselves and then recognizing the danger that we live with and how our lives could be better. So in this world of Makoti, a bridal gift shop, like branded under Makoti Technologies, where I make these gowns from paper. And after making these products from paper, I photograph them very seriously, like they are things that you want to buy, that you like really need, to be convinced of that. And I put it in a magazine or on a website. Sometimes I work performatively dealing these guns to people at group shows when I'm doing a performance. And yeah, some of the guns in this particular catalog that I'm showing you were made in 2017, and I actually threw the guns, some of them away. I kept a few and I threw most of them away because the artwork is the book itself, the evidence of this bridal catalog of this shop that sells guns. Only kept a few of them, and then sold them to whoever. Yeah, this was an installation where I was advertising these guns like a serious shop, and then the business cards, the little flyers ads were small, and they had these gun cutouts sticking out of them into the streets on a window where most of the violence happens. These guns were sticking out, and women, whoever needs a gun to dismantle the patriarchy or feel safe, can just grab one. Another catalog that I had created after doing the gold-plated lemonade graded one is the rape schedule catalog. The guns, I've actually kept the guns for that catalog. I just opened them now. There's 5 guns. Yeah, no, four guns, and here's the other one that I hung over here. And yeah, so this is the gun that's on the cover of the catalog. So this is a zine type of catalog. It opens up like this. And the gun that you see here, made from bond paper, some liquid fruit container. Is right here. Yeah, you can see this. View it like this. Okay, this used to be like quite erect. And so next you also see this one gun here. Is it like, yeah, like this. Also made from some found paper. So every gun that I make is inspired from, things I experience or things I've read and other women go through as responses to being vulnerable, being unsafe, being a woman, or however women relate to men in the world, or how they relate to their genders and their sexualities. And this gun particularly was in response to the lack of seriousness that people speak, like the lack of seriousness when it comes to like rape culture, where people give women the responsibility of keeping themselves safe, as opposed to creating a culture where we can hold men accountable. Okay, now jumping onto the residency exchange, these are the guns I've been making. If you notice that some of the guns have this type of way in which they function, and what is adorned on the guns, they're all made from paper, all of them. These particular ones are different in a sense that they have doilies attached to them, little tethered pieces of found doilies that I've used before in other artworks. And the doilies are placemats. I'm sure many of us know them and feel very nostalgic about doilies. We've seen them at our grandmother's houses. They used to knit them. These doilies are from the Oriental Plaza. And they're made from vinyl, vinyl, yeah. What is it? A nylon vinyl, I think so. Taiwanese nylon vinyl. And yeah, they are mass produced, and you can find like many of these that look the same. So I use them in the work as this like piece of like fragment from the household. This work is in response to the events that happened last year during lockdown, during the pandemic. So during lockdown, during the pandemic last year, we were all advised all over the world to shelter in place and to really stay at home, because like it's safer at home than being outside. And to no surprise at all, I wasn't surprised, because I mean, South Africa is the rape capital of the world. The gender-based violence statistics are really high, and the thought of women staying at home with their abusers and being locked in was no surprise, because there were no tools, there were no something in place to think about what's going to happen in a country where there are a lot of gender-based violence victims. And during that time, calls for domestic violence were really high. These guns really speak to how the question, like the safety of the home. Most of us think home, like home sweet home is the place to be, but this work is aimed at contradicting that notion. Like, who is the home is safe for who? Basically, is the home safe for women? What kind of bodies are safe in the home? So my guns usually have little user manuals. So there's a gun for each gun, or I guess a technology that I make, I always make a user manual. So for these guns, I am in the process of making user manuals. What I do after making the gun, I draw the gun so that it can be on the cover of the user manual. And this is the logo of Makoti, and then user guide, and it specifies here what the name of the gun here is. So I've named it cutlery because it's a gun that's specifically meant to be used at home to protect yourself against patriarchal meltdowns and galling processes of like policing of the body in the home, or whatever like gender norm scam can happen in your household. And you have one of these guns. I haven't named this gun really. I need to give all of them names and clear users specifically. Or I don't know, maybe leave them vague. I'm not sure. The technology layout here, it shows what the gun does and doesn't do. Yeah, so this is the user manual for this gun here, and yeah, it faces upwards, and then this is the down facing part, the inward facing part, where you can see this is the barrel of the gun, and then the ring finger goes, this is where the index finger goes, and then this is where the ring finger goes. And then your middle finger sort of like lays in between here, aligned to the barrel. Most of the guns that I make, okay, some of them actually have like the middle finger aligned to the barrel of the gun, so that you're shooting with your middle finger like this. And the next page is showing the step-by-step how to use it. Over here, step number 1, pick your desired technology. Step number 2, raise your left hand, and then put the index finger in the index finger guard. And then number 4, you put the ring finger in the ring finger guard. And then making sure the middle finger is aligned to the barrel of the gun, put it high, wave it in his face, tell him boy bye. Yeah. And yeah, the warnings of like the products. Our products are not suitable for people who have a high tolerance to caucasity, misogyny, homophobia, xenophobia, transphobia, tribalism, white supremacy, capitalism, and classism, or people who have a low tolerance to difficult women. Our products have a tendency to cause irritation to people who like their women nice. If irritation occurs, please continue. This gun is more suitable for those people who don't have a sensitivity to an overload of femininity. Some of the guns here might require some of y'all to actually consider giving back the land. The cutlery technology, which is this cutlery, is a gun to be used only in the home. If you are a homeless person or experiencing homelessness, please refer to some of our other products. So there are other products for people who are experiencing homelessness to respond to patriarchal meltdowns, not inside the house, in the domestic space of the home. And homelessness, please refer to some of our other products, as these guns are strictly for sheltering in place situations. Never leave the house with your gun on you, but always strap when inside the home, especially if you are not alone. In the case of our products failing to fulfill the given functions of the guns, or the guns harming the user, we cannot be held liable. Therefore, we have asked God to apologize and beg you for forgiveness one day. Makoti Technology Products wishes to protect you Makoti, a bridal gift shop wishes for your loved ones to buy you our, it's supposed to be our, but yeah, this is a draft. Our technologies to show how serious they are about protecting you by dismantling patriarchy. And this is the end of the manual. It's printed on glass. This is actually like a bit of a new design to the manual, because in the last 2 years the user manuals used to be like this, and they didn't have the product on in the front of it, and they still had the layout, and the font was different, and you had all of this as well. Yeah, here's the like patriarchal meltdown kit that I was talking about. I don't have the guns here because they are gonna be in an exhibition soon, so I submitted them to the curators. Be sure to see the work on my Instagram, maybe, I don't know, in 2 weeks, 3 weeks time. And it shows the whole kit of what is inside the kit. So you have a patriarchal meltdown, a gun for a patriarchal meltdown at Woolworths. One that you use for a patriarchal meltdown in bed, then one that you use for a patriarchal meltdown at work, and then for a patriarchal meltdown on ShopRite, patriarchal meltdown in class, a patriarchal meltdown at the bottle store. And here are the uses. These ones for patriarchal meltdowns don't actually have a feature where you wear them on your hand like jewelry or something.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Levo, for preparing that video and sharing some of your practice with us. Really inspiring to see that. I really liked the little warnings section in the manual as well. Well written. I will remind our audience once again that Levo is with us today, and she and Wazile will be available to answer any questions you might have towards the end of today's event. So you can write your questions in the Q&A box found along the toolbar at the bottom of the Zoom interface. I'd also like to note that this is the third and final live from the studio event as part of the Worldings Virtual Residency Exchange. So if you missed the other presentations, we welcome you to view them on YouTube or on our website in the digital archive, along with all of our other virtual events. So next up, I'd like to introduce Wazile Mgibe. Wazile is an art practitioner whose interdisciplinary practice encompasses performance, film, installation as a tool for social change. His work confronts prejudices and advocates against social inequality and creates a platform for critical self-reflexivity within unwelcoming spaces. Mgibe's work is influenced by how things have come into existence, as well as motivations behind certain movements, reactions, human behaviors, and mostly how these things become symbols. He's noted international commission projects include video performances with LEAD Project and LSE Center for Africa, M1 Highway Billboard feature by Center for Less Good Ideas, a film by human rights defender Hub Activism and University of York. A contemporary trained movement artist who runs an on-site project in the public realm, Wazile is interested in the concept of belonging. Mgibe is a 2019 David Kolowani Award recipient and an Arts and Cultural Trust finalist recipient for 2020. His body of work has been witnessed across South Africa, including at Aziko National Gallery, Norval Foundation, FNB Art Joburg, Latitudes Art Fair, South African State Theatre, Bag Factory Artist Studios, Hanger in Portugal, Spear Light Art, and PIAD. Mgibe has participated in a number of residencies, including SIRA residency in Madagascar, Open Lab in Karoo, Bloemfontein, Bodyland residency in Hogsback, and is currently participating in Virtual Worldings Residency Exchange. Wazile, thanks so much for joining us today. I will now hand things over to you.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you, but we can't see you yet.
I'm trying to access my video. Okay, start my video. Yeah, there we go. All right, let's go. Thanks for the introduction. Unfortunately, I'm not in studio. I'm working from home. I mean, studio can be anywhere at home. So I'm going to be sharing what I've been currently working on for the residency, and it's adapted from the work that I've been doing as part of my practice, doing research-based way of work that is progressive and is moving. And part of the work is I focus on the human behavior and the spaces that we work on. I'll share a little bit of my screen. I'm not sure. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So the works are influenced by how the humans react to certain situations and all that. And I just have fallen this idea of just looking at spaces and what our spaces hold in our lives. So anything's like feelings. So anyway, so I made this is a sketch for me, which can be performative in many ways. So I looked at it in a both ways. The one that is on top, I looked at it as living on survival, and the one is on the bottom, I looked at it as living on love, which is based on your belief and analogy where there's peace and all that. And the one that is below, it's influenced by a lot of things, which is these are two bodies that they both want to reach to be, but the one on top is influenced by a lot of things that are happening in life, trauma, any kinds of memories that are happening in life. And the one that is below is the one that I'm suggesting in my performances, is the one that I'm suggesting in my work in terms of facing and forgiving some very difficult realities about yourself, where in your moment, in your time, you can stop. As you can see, there's some spaces there. It's what I'm trying to introduce in my work of there are matters that we should be dealing with as an individuals across the world that will make our journey as less traumatic and not creating further trauma than focusing on the current one that we are doing, which is B, which is us being in this world of constantly fighting, and which is the previous world that what we know, especially as people of color, but it doesn't only fall on people of color, it falls on everybody, which is we all have traumatic things that happen to our life, but it's how we respond to it. And I also take on the durational performance I once did, which titled "We Regret to Inform You." So what I was doing right there, I was just introducing the way of how to react to such news. You know, it's not like we're running away from all the bad things or the negatives that are happening in life, but how can we respond to that? So the drawing below is how I look at my work, from performance, from installation, from video work, and me using cotton and bandages as that's where I suggest this is where the focus should be as us as human beings, if we want to have a progressive life that won't create further trauma. Okay, I'm trying to go on my sorry. Okay, this is my is it shareable? Can you guys see the screen?
We can see it, but it's mostly white with this, it seems, a small thumbnail in the corner.
Okay. Is it small or big now? Because I tried to enlarge it so people can see like
Most of the shared screen is a white screen, but there seems to be some image that's small in the top left corner.
cool, cool. Yeah, but okay, as long as you can see the images. This is a plug. This kind of abstract work is something that I want to like further go through it, but it's inspired by words that I saw when I was in an open lab residence. I think it was 2000. It was 5 years or 6 years ago. I'm not sure. There was something written on the wall says, when the kids stop singing, switch off the television. It struck me.
Can I just interrupt you for a second, Wazila? I don't think we are seeing that image. I think it's just the previous image that's shrunk down. Now that I'm looking closer.
Okay, I'm not sure now. What can you see now?
The same thing.
Okay, sorry.
No problem.
I'm not good in technology and all that. Okay, let me try and go back to, oh yeah, to go back to Zoom. Okay. This is, okay. Yeah. Can you see it now?
Yes, we can see your whole screen there. So I think if you were to highlight all of the images and then if you press space, it'll create kind of a slideshow with all of them.
Oh, okay, cool. Let me just try that. Okay. Okay, how's it now?
There we are. Now we can see them.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So when the kids stopped singing, switch off the television. It was kind of very striking note, which for me stayed such a long time, which speak about when the kids stop singing. Kids sing because they're surrounded by happiness. There's so much joy, and when they stop singing, there's a certain information or there's something significant that is about to take place in their lives or that is going to change their pattern, and that kind of an information, the knowledge transmission and what that information can do to the future or can do to the kids, and it does have a very strong message and how we do things as the people that we're living now, and what kind of message we want to pass on to the generation. So I was actually thinking of how many things we can switch off and how many of the spring cleaning we can do that, so we can accommodate the future in a very respectful way and in a way that will be accommodative to everybody. Okay, so we're going back there. Yeah, okay. And then it goes back to the memory of what kind of memories we have as us human beings, and selective memories, what we want to focus on, not that we're ignoring other things. And this is also one of the works that I referred back when I was doing my research. This is the work I did, I think 2 years ago in Great Mall in Cape Town. This is an installation. I used a red ribbon. It just tracks down the spaces that I kept on going in and out. There's kind of like a movement in it, but I just took the landscape of it from going these points from point A and point B, and I just looked at it. How would it look from where I was born to the spaces that I've been to and all that. So why I use the red ribbon, I just wanted to get a color, because I don't use much colors. I wanted to get a color that will be very common to everyone, which is red blood, and in that way everybody can relate, and even in memory displacement. So I just wanted to have this kind of installation that will make one just think how would their life would be in if where they were born, where they studied and what they did. And sometimes it's forced removal, sometimes unwilling. It's all this supply and demand kind of the system thing. So yeah, I was very interested in that. And then I took that to some of the experimental works that I did. And I see like there's a crossroad there that I did. It has something to do with also movements and displacement. And within that, it has some kind of a creation or some kind of a belief it's in it, which is sometimes we move according to what we believe or what works for us. And I just carried on with the color red within some of the works that I do, just put it with the color red, a memory. A part of my life was present at that time when I was making this work, and I made it through. I use the Paris of bandages, and I didn't want to use the canvas because also my bandages are one of my main materials that I use with them. I just wanted to bring the feeling tangible. When you look at someone with a bandage, you constantly, or you already position yourself in a place of kindness. So I was very particular about the kind of material that I want to use. These are the sketches I was using when I was for the residents. Here is I stay in the city, and when I go to studio, there's like a lot of buildings in there, and I was just interested on the layers within the buildings, and the materials, and what is our relationship with the buildings, as native people or any kind of people. Sometimes, like, you just look at this huge thing, it has so much impact to something that it does to you as a human being. Maybe it intimidates you or something, and just interested in the layers and that, what was there before that and all that. And for me, I just realized how architectural or buildings have language, have signature. There's like an article there. It's like when you look at the tree and you like, a tree just blossom in this space that is so complicated, and you just ask yourself how this tree managed to be this. It's like it's find its own way to like redesign itself, and it's like it's got a language, it's communicating in any way. That's how I see buildings in the tree. And yeah, it just interests me that not only our bodies can be only the mediums for performance, but also buildings and houses and trees, they have their own language of movement and performance, which is I'm very interested in. And these layers and layers that keep on coming, changing of a color. And also in our neighborhoods where I come from, in the older days, somebody's asking for direction, they will say, if you see the greenhouse, go left. So that greenhouse played a role in terms, there were symbols, there was a direction, it played a role to tell somebody what to turn and all that, or someone over. Like, I remember you stay next to that building like that, and then it changed the architecture and all that. So it does play some part of a role, or it does play a role in our lives and in our surroundings. And this is inside my studio, some of the walls there. And while I was looking also the buildings, I looked at the paintings, or I looked at how the abandoned buildings or the buildings also like have layers and layers. And within these layers, there's like curiosity, what is underneath these layers, and what caused the buildings find its own structure. Sometimes the building may be abandoned, but it still find its way to recreate itself, or it tells a story. There's a certain story that makes me so curious about our surroundings. It may be caused by us as human beings or just by nature, but there's a relationship there, whether it's direct or indirect. And that really like made me curious. And when you looked at it, it does sometimes have an element of looking that white part and you see the ocean, and then the other one is in land. So there's some in some kinds of designs and all that. I see the aerial view of a land, and I also see the building, and it's just the curiosity of how we are connected with the spaces around us, and how we, at some point, we also choose to ignore that. And I took that to some of my works that I did. I tackle this work, have forgiveness. I come from a house full of females. I have 3 sisters and a lot of female cousins, and I use the bandaged hair. So it's all the layers and all that. And through my curiosity, I was just looking at um how so much forgiveness women, could be any kind of a woman, they've done, you know like I was just wondering, with so much love and giving forgiveness, you're so freely giving away to your kids, to your husband, to your place, you forgot to give it to yourself, and I'm just wondering, do you have at least something left for you as a woman? you know Not that you're doing that willingly. So there were these layers for me that just they interest me in a lot, and they just draw some curiosity, and they create further conversation, which is something that I like in my work. And I didn't want to add so much color, because there's something about color for me that it narrows down the invitation to people, because people have kind of relationship with the colors. They have, there's a relationship people have with colors. It might be bad or good. So I wanted to bring something warm, welcoming. And when you want to create a space or something that is welcoming, you also need to not do it because the way you like it, but do it in a way that all these different people can be in one room respectively, and this is why I didn't want to put so much color. And this is one of the sketches that I'm currently doing, and I'm very interested to just make it larger. And it's all this idea of our aerial view of a landscape, but also these layers and these movements in trees, in buildings, in architectural, in movements as a body. And yeah, I just wanted to follow this free fall of how we can see things in a different way, leaves, roads, directions and all that. And how performance can reveal itself within time. And yeah, so this is also one of the works that I do. It's called Walls, the Great Walls, I think. Yeah, in that same narrative of curiosity and layers, it's like you keep on opening and opening, and then there's this red that, there's a curiosity in it. These layers can be even around on people's feelings, on people, how they, how they, on their process of healing or whatever, on their process of rediscovering themselves. And I used the Paris of bandages here also. And yeah, I just wanted to use a dark color so that that red can just pop in, and it just creates conversation, which is the main things that I do in my work, just create conversations. And this is a plastic of bandages. I'm creating here probably 800, if I'll have enough time, of cups. And yeah, there will be installation. This is around knowledge transmission, and us as human beings, how we refuse to talk about things that we should be talking about, and us thinking we have time. I'm just now creating this space using installation where we can just talk about the things that we have to talk. Sometimes where there's a lot of misunderstanding or miscommunication because we just refuse to talk. And these are cups. And as you see, these cups, they're not filled up. They just they're made up at the top. They're not done. So the conversation was there, but it was not done. And why? There's a lot of reasons, but if we want the conversations to be done, we have to take ownership of that and eventually sit down and manage to talk about everything for us to be progressive in any way. And this is the layers on that work that I'm currently doing, still the Paris of bandages. Now there's a movement that I was interested in these layering things, and I adopted the movement of opening a curtain, which is I used to say it when my mother and my sisters do it, and these, you know, when somebody opens a curtain in the morning, you open it because you're welcoming fresh air, or you're welcoming the sunlight. There's something positive that you literally seeking, unaware or hoping. So I made this work of these curtains opening. There's seeking here, and being a seeker, that means you really forgiving some very difficult realities about yourself. You are able to do something, you're taking action. So there's a movement of constantly opening these layers and layers. I found it very performative how I don't want to say woman, man, it's very patriarchal, how people open curtains. They find a way, you just do it. Your hands are playing, everything you're playing, but inside you is like, oh, another day. You know, there's a language there. There's a sense of hope. There's a sense of light, and the material again I used. Yeah, I was just interested in. For me, it just make me be a seeker. And then it went to performance, which is most of my works. They either start from performance or they end up in performance. This is the performance work of me opening these layers, which is, I think, the final performance will be me creating these layers. I mean, 20 of them, and at the end is this like light, but this light won't be able to project. So I imagine it continuously opening these curtains, continuously opening them till so there's this reaching with the audience coming in and all of that. So audience participation, and also the material that I use here, matching cloth is a material that I don't know. I just like to use material that have lived longer, that anyone can have a story or kind of memory towards it. Anyone can connect to it. Yeah, and I wanted to share this 2 minutes performative work, which is around the material that I use. It's the work talks about mdiadia, which is, it's a cloth that is put inside. It's created as for space demarcation, you know, which is how I grew up into it, is to seeing the adults on the other side talking or doing whatever. So it does have a memory. It plays a huge part in displacement and yeah, the relationship we have with it, and how we are separated within the family. So yeah, it's only two minutes video. Let me just find it. Yeah, there it is. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see it.
No, we can't see it yet. There we are.
Is it playing?
No, we can hear the audio, but the video doesn't seem to be playing. Might be playing in 2 locations.
Oh yeah, I am. I'm sorry. And then how do you do that? I'm very bad with technology. Sorry. Okay.
Is it possible that it's playing in the browser in the bottom right by your trash can?
Okay, let's just see that. No, I don't. Oh yeah, there we go. Oh, that was so bad. Okay, not all of us are good in these. Now I'm struggling to get the screen back. I don't know what you guys see.
It's just your desktop screen now.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm glad it's nothing embarrassing. Okay, do you see the video now?
Yes, there it is.
Oh, cool. Enjoy. Okay, so that is the video called Umdiatia, right? And yeah, so I think my whole intentions now with the work and the materials is just to establish our relationship with the surroundings, and what is our role and what are we currently doing and what can we do, because I just always try to find solutions, not just to bring problems. So I use my practice as kind of seeking for those solutions, and in us as human beings. Yeah, so that's all for me. Thank you.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Zile. Beautiful work. Appreciate you sharing that with us.
Thank you. That was a lot.
No, that was great. I mean, the technical difficulties happen to the best of
Going
us.
around with technology, sharing screens and all that circles. Yeah.
So we're now going to open things up for the Q&A portion of the event. So I'd like to welcome back Lebo as well to turn on their video, and our audience members to type out their questions in the Q&A box. And of course, if you'd like to pose your question aloud, you can indicate that in the question or raise the little virtual hand that's also along the bottom of the toolbar there. So maybe I'll just get us started with a few questions. So I thought something I've actually failed to mention so far in this event is that this Worldings International Exchange, this residency program, is not only Griffin Art Projects, but our partner, the Bag Factory, of which both of you are studio members at. So I was wondering if you maybe want to speak to the Bag Factory a little bit, how you got involved with it, and just kind of, what goes on there.
Wesile, you can start.
No, I was about to say you, because I'm trying to think.
Okay, I'll start. My journey with the Back Factory started last year in October. Okay, actually earlier than that. After I graduated from the Wits School of Art, I was aware of the Back Factory because it's located in Joburg and not very far. And there's a lot of artists, like really prominent, important artists, and would go to excursions there sometimes. So I was aware of the space and wanted to be a part of it somehow. And I used to work at a print studio located there at the Back Factory called LL Editions. I had an internship there. And that was my involvement with the Back Factory, sort of like as a person who works for one of the artists there. And the following year, during the pandemic, when I was no longer working there, I applied for one of their awards. The Back Factory has awards every year. David Kulwane Award, Cassia Wells Award, or the Young Women's Studio Bursary. So I applied for the Young Women's Studio Bursary, which usually they have one recipient, but then during lockdown, it was a time of crisis. So the Back Factory selected 3 recipients for that. I was the runner-up of the runner-up recipient of the award. And then my residency was started on the 1st of October until January. And yeah, so I occupied Back Factory as a resident, like a part of a residency, and then had my exhibition at the end. And then I fell in love with the space and the community. And then I requested to stay longer and become a resident artist. So I'm still there now today. Yeah, and then that's where I work full time, practicing as an artist.
On my side, I won the David Kulwane Award in 2019. It was for performance. Yes, that's how I landed in Back Factory. And then after the David Kulwane Award, I didn't stay long in Johannesburg. I went back to Cape Town, and I was a residence artist there at Great More Studios. And then while I was that side, there was a call for studio, and I was like, okay, let me apply and all that. But yeah, I didn't think I was gonna get a studio, but I was like, but I had good time there. And yeah, I guess the Back Factory loved we had a very good relationship, which is something that I always love to do when I work with somebody or wherever I am, just to build further relationships. So I guess I did, and then I came back. Now I'm a resident artist at the Back Factory, so it's quite nice. I'm enjoying. The space is very amazing for me. I mean, like some artists, we all do different things, and that's a nice thing about it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that being at the Back Factory is kind of like the magnum opus of my career, because yeah, it's a place where I've always dreamt of being at in my career, like one of those things that are on my list of achievements. Every time when I'm thinking about like whatever struggles I have as an artist, I'm like, oh my God, I have a studio at the Back Factory. That's exciting. Like, not everyone gets to do that. Not everyone gets to have a studio at Back Factory. Not everyone is, it's like the magnum opus. I feel like I made it in life.
We do have one question that came in from Nicholas, and it's for you, Wazile. In your exploration of memory and displacement, to what extent does the trauma of South African history inform your work?
Sure. Yo, that's kind of like a very, it's a very broad and like huge question. I mean, so South Africa its own has a huge history, of trauma, And of course, it did play part in my initial practice, but I didn't want it to be narrow. I mean, be very specific in terms of talking about trauma and all that, because I think it's me having this idea of anyone can access the work and anyone, I would like them to have an involvement in that. So how can I talk about South African trauma in a way that it's open or relatable to the same trauma that some of the people are facing in Asia or North or South America and all that. So yeah, if I can answer that, I can say that South African, it did play a huge part in my practice, you know, because I think I saw it as South Africans, we are just constantly performing in our life due to trauma. And it just influenced me. I think I'll say 80%, but my implementation to the work was not strictly about South African trauma. It was like worldwide as human beings.
Thank you for that. I do have another question ready, but feel free, everyone in the audience, if you want to get a few more in. So something that I've kind of been interested in hearing a little bit about, considering this is an international exchange, there's been 6 artists, you've been having these live studio events, there's also been cohort meetings and more casual hangout sessions that you're just kind of getting the opportunity to chat with one another and discuss anything from your practice to anything else going on in your life. So I'm kind of wondering if you could speak to a little bit of what cross-cultural exchange or creative exchange and collaboration in general means for you and your practice. Does it have any impact whatsoever? Does it inform the way in which you approach your work?
Oh, actually, we had a brief conversation with Lebo about just like artists who make work in their own time, like the kind of work that they want to make. Sometimes it's very hard to even have cross-cultural work due to the reality that you kind of forced, you have to make work for sales, because the reality is that you have to pay bills. You don't have time to really explore cross-cultural, which it takes long. If you're going to work with other artists from different countries, it could take a year to like really explore to the idea of creating the work and all that, and also the expectation in a commercial of making work to sell, which is sometimes you just want to make work that is going to last longer. And we were just talking about the whole idea of grounding yourself as an artist and trying to go to those spaces for cross-cultural or learning about other nations' work or how they do things. That takes time, and it's a privilege on its own if you're able to do that without stopping and rushing to do something to pay bills and all that. So yeah, I don't know what Lebo wants to say about that.
Yeah, because our work is consumed in these different ways beyond a person seeing the work and then buying it. The way we engage, like us engaging with the artists from Canada, is sort of also them buying into our work and us buying into their work, in terms of like through engaging with it and looking at it and like sharing, exchanging of ideas. And working cross-culturally like that really increases the meaning of what an art market is, or an art world, what an art world looks like. I like to say that there's an art world, and then not the art market is not synonymous to what the art world is. Isn't like there are many art worlds, and not like the art world. The art market is not the main art world. Sort of like you choose which art world you want to occupy, and these cultural exchange programs are really something that adds to what like patronage or collectorship is like, what it looks like. So that's one thing I will say about working, cross-culturally. But I don't have a massive, a vast experience of working like that. I'm sort of I'm not gonna say, I don't know. People hate the word emerging, but like I graduated from university. I got my degree like at the end of 2018. Like I walked across the stage in 2019 graduating. So like last year, 2020, and maybe the half of 2019 and this year was really me for the very first time navigating as a practicing artist. You know, I can't say that I've done something massive like in the like from 5 years ago, something like that. Like I'm very, 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 very new, like fresh from being a student. So
Like it-
that's how far I can say about these kinds of experiences, because I haven't seen that a lot. Yeah, I don't know. I'm
I
quite,
don't,
yeah.
it's so long.
Okay.
What is it? There's
Is there a
message,
question? Okay. I think
a
I saw a
message.
question from Lisa.
I
Yeah,
don't know what is
Let me see.
I can read it aloud here for our audience.
Oh, okay.
So it's for you, Lebo, I believe. Can you talk about what you see coming next in your work as you work through the current concepts and within a feminist practice? Oh, there's two questions here, so let's start with that one.
Okay. What I can see coming in my work is it's to move the work from the performative side of the work, because usually when I made these works with guns, I used to like have a performance where I put the guns in a glass cabinet and I see and like really seriously sell them to people like a salesperson. Imagine a very mark infomercial at like 12 during the day coming onto the TV and being sold these gadgets. I want the work to exist digitally, to move from like the performance space and the gallery space, but to exist on a website and kind of feel like, I don't know, a Tiffany's online e-commerce where you can buy guns. Yeah, I would like to turn the works of selling the guns into like this fantasy shop of like gadgets that you can get online, and I want it to be curated like that on the space. And also with like speaking to Black femininity, the work of Black femininity, I am like very intent on continuing to use the doilies and placemats through printmaking in these different kinds of ways. After printing with Bevan Devet, one of the local printmakers, we found like this like nice way of working where he understands the work and we can collaborate together and make prints. So it will stay within printmaking too. And in terms of the guns, I would like them to be a digital experience and also put in like writing and text within how I talk about the guns and present them. Yeah, that's the answer for the question.
Maybe have a short follow-up to that too. While you were presenting, I was kind of curious about, because you have such prominent themes in feminist ideals and smashing the patriarchy throughout your work. I'm curious how you approach knowing which materials you might use, whether it's prints or making the guns, or even expanding it further conceptually and making the actual manuals that go along with your guns. How do you know when you have an idea which approach you would like to take with it?
Okay. Yeah, I do ask myself what type of material is appropriate in articulating an idea that I have. So with the previous guns, like the choice that I made for the residency, for the body of work that I made for this residency, which is 5 guns, the material that I chose was paper, like, which is a constant theme of using paper to make these guns that are very fragile and really don't promise much. Again, taking from the proverb of Mosadi Tshwara Thipa ka bohaleng, to undermine and create like women, Black women, as being soft. And so that's why I chose paper for that specifically, and also how paper works, like the malleability of paper and how you can fold it. Paper is fragile, but the way you use it can actually be, you can craft it in such a way, manipulate it in such a way where it can be strong, even though it's paper. And also in that material that I chose of doilies, I wanted to specifically refer to the home. So after seeing the doilies, I really so okay, this is a piece of, like a feminine object that symbolizes, all our lives. Everyone is familiar with it, so this would be an appropriate way to adorn these guns. And along also with the colors that I chose is also goes to what matters to me. For me as a Black feminist, as a really feminine identifying or girly woman, like girly, frilly, pink and shiny things matter a lot to me. And those are the things I want to show in my feminism. And also there's this anecdote that made me really aware of how talkative materials are, and how objects have these different relationships to bodies, to the world, to how we use them. And if I present an object to you, there's different associations that you can get and pick up from that. And like, it's important in your work to choose objects and then listen to what the objects say and determine whether those objects say what you want to say, what you want people to hear and see. When I was 7, I was a flower girl at this wedding of a relative, and during the wedding party, everyone is seated in the tent at the different tables, and then the bride and the groom have their own table. Next to it is a table of presents and gifts, and so the next person on the program, because there were speeches happening, different people speaking about the couple, friends, or is it the mother congratulating them, or like saying these like deep things about marriage and their new journey. So the next person to speak was this old lady, this granny, and she used the opportunity to open the gifts that are on the table, like open them, read them out loud, and then started doing this spiel. Because you know how when two people are getting married, they are getting ready to build their new home, and the objects are domestic objects like dishcloths, pots, glasses, trays, and all these kinds of things that can be used domestically because they're building their new home. She started this spiel of like taking the things out, showing them, addressing the bride, who's the bride is a woman, and like, this is how you can use this to appease your mother-in-law. And it was this like funny but really perplexing. As a 7-year-old, I was watching this like, what is this? Is this what marriage looks like? You doing things for your in-laws and your husband? What? This is crazy. And there was like a dishcloth, and he was saying like, listen, when you are married and you're at home and your husband comes back from work and you're mad at him, don't just take out the dishes from the sink while they wait and start dishing upon them. Use this cloth and then wipe the dishes with the dishcloth so you can like present your food nicely on the plate. And there was more like crazy stories that I'd be lying if I would elaborate more on them. And so I took it from there to decide like, okay, like objects have a meaning. Objects are so bodied, like the color pink given. It's something that is associated to women, and also maybe something that is regarded as weaker. So I'm really looking like aware of how objects influence what people will read from your work. Yeah.
Thank you for that. We do have one last question here from Lisa as well. It's for you, Wazile. Can you talk about how you've worked across disciplines and particularly relationship to materiality in your practice in terms of Joburg art practices? Do you have any key influences, both non-art or art, that you see coming into play and that you see yourself responding to in the future as well? It seems there's an intimacy and domesticity in your work, which is remarkable, and I wondered how you see that unfolding in the future.
Cool. It's kind of two questions. Yeah. Can you talk about how you've worked across this business? Yeah. My practice began in performance 2000 and well, I think it was 7 years ago. Yes, but I was like a performance artist. Yeah, and at that time I was just using a body as a medium, and just exploring these site specifics and all that. So I went from video work and I went to installations work, which is trying to find different mediums to talk about these subjects. And then that's when I had a relationship with the material, but it took such a long time for me to find a material that it can stand out, a material that when you use it, everyone will relate to it without me saying or without the material shouting. And also a material or object that seek consent. It's one of the most important things in my work is not just to shout to people or anything, but it seeks consent, that whenever you're ready, because now you'll be in a state of learning or whatever about the work, and the work will also welcome you. You know, there are many ways to creating welcoming spaces. So that's when I started falling in love with the bandages and cotton and other matting cloth. Yeah. So in terms of Joburg art practices, do you have any key influences? Non-art. My influences is basically how we, I don't know if it could be a good influence or not. It's just how we do things as human beings, and us taking ownership and acknowledging, responsibility to what we do and to what we do to our surroundings. It's like I'm putting this awareness in my work of how much we're responsible to our spaces, around our spaces, and the contribution that we make. And then at the later stage, we in this position of shocked or refuse to take accountability of that we participated in all these traumas, in everything that is happening. Influence of how human beings react and how they just do things for their own individual beneficiary, but not knowing collectively at the end of the day, it will just ruin the whole thing. So yeah, I'm very interested in that. And the work is slowly going there in that way in the future, but also when tackling such heavy subjects, which have roughness, I would like to introduce the softness within them. It's like when I talk about displacement and other very heavy subjects, when I respond to that or when I talk about them, I like to bring so much softness within, and then it will be your time or whenever way to actually really look at that heavy subject. Because if I also respond to it using very heavy material or very heavy abstract performative work, that means I'm creating further trauma, which is something that I don't want to do. Yeah, I mean, like, there's a start for anything. If today could be, and then why not we not start on a good side? Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for your great answers. I think we will start wrapping things up here. So I'd just like to extend a huge thanks to both Wazile and Lebo for the presentations today. We do look forward to following along throughout the remainder of the residency period, the next few weeks here, and also to see what you create moving forward in your practices. And of course, thank you to everybody else for joining us today for today's event. We have been recording it, so if you'd like to revisit it or share it with others, it'll be on our archive along with other virtual events. And I think we'll probably try and post it to Facebook as well, since we couldn't get the live stream going today. So yeah, we'll finish things there. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Thank you so much. This was so lovely.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye.